Shut up and sit down.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hell yeah, Batman!
Our bikes love us and we love them back as we ride through the city by the cars like plaque on the teeth of the town. We just keep on singing. We're unstoppable.
Oh, hell yeah!
G&O. Unstoppable kids. Yeah. Get your bike and go.
You are listening to the Dial Podcast with Matt Legrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. One of the most important decisions you will make is to be in a good mood. For every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. So, crank it up and be happy, my friend.
When things are good, when things are hard, we ride together, we don't drive cars, but together we make such beautiful music.
Oh, hell yeah, brother. Yeet.
Unstoppable mamas. A G&O, we're unstoppable. Unstoppable kids, yeah. Get your bike and go. Get your bike and go. Unstoppable papas. Pedal and flow.
We all have some self-doubt inside, and when society at large tells you you're ugly for what you look like, it can be really, really hard to even get going. You know, as humans, our bodies are meant to move. We're not meant to be sedentary, but it also doesn't matter what size you are. Everybody's meant to move.
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Turing here with Lance freaking Hepler.
Lance freaking Hepler, making people suffer since 1998.
1998?
That's when I graduated from dental school.
Oh. What were people doing before that?
Living their lives joyously without suffering.
All right. To his right, Sir Ian Gibson.
Sir Ian Gibson, token British guy and pseudo knight of the British Empire.
No, fake knight.
Fake
yes.
knight.
Hey, guys, guess what? We've got a special guest with us
Yes,
today
we
that
do.
makes us all look like a bunch of chumps. We're a bunch of nobodies, a bunch of hacks, all these other fun things because we're
Yes.
not doing anything nearly as cool as she is. I would like to introduce Marley Blonsky.
Hello.
Marley, how are you?
I'm so good. It's funny because you guys ride your bikes way harder than I do, but
But
I get paid for it.
You are the only professional
You're the
cyclist
true
at
pro
the
here.
table.
Yeah.
She's the true pro.
Marley, you are in the Pacific Northwest. What brings you to this neck of the woods?
Oh, it's so good to be back. I lived here for 20 years, and I'm on a 7-week road trip. So I moved to Bentonville, Arkansas 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm on this massive road trip right now, going to a bunch of gravel events and spreading the good all bodies on bikes word.
Oh, so freaking awesome. Why are we doing life wrong, you guys?
I know. We did not figure it out.
These life choices, I don't know. I'm going to be questioning them this whole podcast. So. All right. Marley, we've got a ton of questions for you. We've got a bunch of fun things to kind of run through, and I want to hear a bunch more, but we got to get some business out of the way. For the people that normally listen, we normally jump right into our back pedal. You're going to have to wait till the very end of the podcast. So let's get this part out of the way, though. Let's bring this guy in, and let's see what he has to say. Hey,
Champ Bailey here.
All right, did you kick Lance out of the way?
World's worst sports podcaster. Here I am. Okay,
you want to hear Dorothy Mantooth?
I do like Dorothy Mantooth.
We'll maybe come back to that later.
Okay, if you've watched any cycling this week, if you've seen the Olympic road races, they were fantastic.
So freaking
the women's
cool.
race was fantastic. The men's race was mildly annoying. So we'll put it that way. The women's race was unbelievable. I mean, the fact that this American, Kristen Faulkner, she actually pulled off the gold medal with this unbelievable move over Lotto Kopecky and Mariana Voss, who were two of the best racers to ever race.
Massive hitters, and she rode away from him.
She rode away from him. It was really incredible to watch. I was screaming at the TV.
If you haven't seen it, just go back and watch the last 5 to 10 Ks. It is totally worth your time, and it was one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time. So
it was good times. It was very fun to watch. I was super pleased with it. So hell yeah.
Yep. So they closed the gap. They bridged the gap. They came back in. What was it, about
3K to go.
And they all came together, and she decided to attack.
She just attacked right over the top.
And rode them off her wheel, and she ended up minute and 3 seconds or something like that.
Yeah,
of time
I think
into them,
so.
and they're all back there, kind of oh, she's nobody. And they're trying to size each other up, made some bad decisions. And she's like, you know what? I got some legs.
Well, it was perfect tactics. And she did it on the fly because there was no radio communication, right? So there's
That's correct.
nobody directing her to tell her what to do. It was all racing on instinct.
Or to tell her, or to tell Mariana Voss or Vollering that, or Lotto Kopecky that this is who this is. She actually has some talent. You better keep track of her. And they didn't know.
But it was so well timed. It was like you said, 3Ks out, and it was. She just kind of surged off the front. Was it an actual attack, or? I mean, by the time she had a few wheel lengths, it was decided really because all three of those were so well matched, and nobody wanted to burn the match.
Correct.
To pull the others up to her wheel.
They all looked at each other.
Classic.
They all just
They
looked
all
at
looked
each other. Yep.
They each either one of them could have got across, I feel like, but they were watching each other, and so she just pulled it off. It was great.
Will they all get to rematch at the Tour de France Femmes?
Faulkner's not in the Tour de France Femmes at the moment.
Okay.
But she might
should
be.
be.
Yes, she should be.
Gold medalist.
Absolutely. Now, she just started cycling 7 years ago.
Yes.
She's from Homer, Alaska.
Yes. You ever been to Homer?
There's not much going
It
on
is
up
at
there.
the very bottom of the Kenai Peninsula. It is like hundreds and hundreds of miles from any like real civilization. There's nothing down there but fishing. So it's pretty incredible that she came from there. And yeah. So her story is just fantastic.
Okay, then fast forward to say 5 weeks ago, she wasn't doing this race.
No.
And then 4 weeks out, a month out, she and everybody's kind of discussing like everything. And Taylor Knibb was supposed to be in that spot, but she was doing the medley triathlon relay kind of thing.
She was doing the relay the very next day. And so the schedule didn't work for her very well. So she decided to give up her spot.
So, a month out, okay, let's go get ready for the Olympics and see how we fare. Knowing that she's going to the Olympics already. She's going to be racing on the track doing the team pursuit, and which is pretty close to the actual road race, and she made it work.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was so awesome. I love it. So
pretty unbelievable.
What
We
about
love the story?
What about
Jij bent een klootzak.
Okay. That's Dutch for you're an asshole. Yes. So it wasn't a Dutch rider though. It was Remco Evenepoel. He nailed it, man.
My hat goes off to that kid.
Yeah.
He put a big dig in, and nobody can match it. And
No.
he just went super hard.
Plus, he had Wout in the group covering Van der Poel's moves. So any move that went off the front or tried to go off the front, Wout covered it. I mean, and Wout did exactly what he was supposed to do for Remco, which is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
So kudos to him. He rode away, even though he...
It's so incredible to watch people put down that kind of power at the end of 270 kilometers?
That's correct.
150 miles of racing already.
Yes, all that. Yeah.
And to be able to-
Pretty unbelievable. So,
But yeah, they're elite athletes.
yeah.
And
So Big Six. He's still he's got to be firmly entrenched in that
Dude.
now. So we've got to eat our words a
Third
little bit
on
on
the
that.
Tour de France and backs it up by winning both the road race and the time trial.
Yeah, and third on the podium at the Tour.
Yes, that's
So,
legit.
Yeah.
Stupid Remco.
One thing though, what about that finish? How do we feel about that?
You know, his a-holery just came out. He flats, and it's, as soon as he pulls over, his team knows he needs a bike. By him like screaming and yelling and slapping his hand, like, come on. You're not going to make it faster. But I get it. Like in the moment, you're like full panic.
Yeah.
No radio, so he doesn't know how much of a
doesn't
gap
know.
he has.
Yeah.
So it could be a 20-second gap or it could be a minute gap. He didn't realize he had a whole minute. So, yeah.
The post up though, I mean, too much.
The post up on the finish line where he raised the... Yeah, well, the greatest cycling picture of all time, because Eiffel Tower.
It was pretty iconic.
Here's the
It
question
was
though,
pretty
like
good.
you've got the cyclocross world championships. Matthew Van Der Poel comes across and he's got a big gap there as well, stops and like lifts up his bike and he's like doing his thing. We didn't have any problems with that. Remco comes across at the Olympics and stops and makes sure that he posts himself up and put himself in this iconic picture. Granted, was pretty iconic. I mean, you got the Eiffel Tower in the background, you've got the Olympic Arch just coming up. You're at the finish line, nobody's back there, and you do your thing. However, is that the time or the place for that?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. He deserves that moment.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just such a sense of arrogance about him, though, in doing that. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing. And it wasn't because he was like in the moment and like just super like, excited about what he did. He was overly proud of himself, though.
So personality makes it okay.
I don't know. I don't. Why did I have a problem with that?
Because personality makes it okay.
Yeah.
We like Vanderpool and we don't like Remco because he's had issues with
Yeah, a little
people.
bit. So
anyway,
I don't know. Well done, Remco.
Well done.
Anything else?
Champ out. That's
All right.
it. Let's move on.
Right on. Let's jump right into it. Marley.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, you had to listen to Champ.
You've got a lot of stuff going on in your life, and I'm sure there's a fair amount of people that are going to be listening to this that aren't quite familiar with what you got going on. Why don't you start at the top? I mean, who are you? Where are you from? What you doing? What's this whole initiative that you've got going on?
Sure. So where to start? So I am the co-founder and now executive director of All Bodies on Bikes, which started out as a film in 2021. And it's all about size inclusion in cycling. So I started riding bikes about 10 years ago in Seattle. I had gotten divorced and was really searching for who I was as a person. And like many of us, we find cycling. And I was going on these pretty epic adventures, bike packing, and I got into gravel cycling before gravel cycling was like a thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the clothes to do it. They don't make, or at least they didn't at the time. It's gotten a little bit better, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But they didn't make plus size clothing. I'm a bigger bodied person. I identify as a fat cyclist. I use fat as a neutral descriptor of my body.
I love it.
I also use it because when I call myself fat, it means the trolls on the internet have to get a lot more creative. Oh, you called me fat. Okay. And what else do you got?
There's something to that. I love the fact that you're taking that word back. You're making that your word, and you're not letting people use that as a weapon against you. And if you are using that and you've got these trolls, it just makes them look like a bigger idiot. It's just
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
you're a jackal.
Exactly. And it takes the emotional power away from it because I don't view it as a bad thing. It's just a description of my body type.
Sure.
So riding bikes, looking for clothing, didn't have a raincoat. And I was pretty active in bike advocacy in Seattle, safer streets and bike lanes and protected bike lanes and the whole deal. And I realized I could use that same skill set to advocate for size inclusion in cycling. So started giving talks and, spreading the word. I think I'm totally blanking on the statistic now, but a large majority of Americans are in bigger bodies, either overweight or obese. I don't like those words, but living in bigger bodies. And so the bike industry is just missing out on an entire segment of the population by not making equipment and clothing that works for us. And I realized this is an area that nobody's working in. So started working in it. Eventually Shimano heard about it, made a film about me, and my co-founder, Kaylee Kornhauser, and my life kind of blew up. This was in 2021. Started getting asked to come on podcasts just like this, giving talks, leading rides across the country. And I had this realization. I was working in corporate America at the time. I had this realization that I think I could do this full time. So I started pitching to brands and saying, you should sponsor me. And it worked, weirdly.
Damn it.
And so now I'm
so proud of you.
Thank you.
So freaking awesome.
Thank you. So I've had 2 different bike sponsors. I've been with Cannondale for the past 3 years. I work with Shimano, work with Ride with GPS, a number of different brands. I have a clothing sponsor. And so that's how I make my living while getting this nonprofit, All Bodies on Bikes, off the ground. And so now All Bodies on Bikes has 13 chapters across the country.
Oh, wow.
Seriously.
We lead inclusive group rides. So people don't get left behind. That was another impetus for this, is I would go on these group rides, and I will say things have gotten so much better. And I'd love to talk about the shop ride you guys are doing today as a great example of what to do when talking about a ride. Because so often these rides will just say, yeah, you come on this ride, and you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. And I just got sick of getting left behind. It's no fun to get dropped. And so we started leading just inclusive social rides, 5 to 10 miles, not going far. Sometimes we do go further, and we make sure to let folks know that, or we go a little bit faster. And we do advocacy and consulting and just trying to make the bike industry and the bike world more inclusive to people of all sizes and shapes, because cycling is, as you guys know, amazing for people regardless of your body size.
Yeah. Just a quick question on that for you. You said when you first came into this, there weren't a lot of brands that were supporting what you were doing. It's just, I don't know, they were naive or just people don't think about that.
Yeah.
Things have changed. What brands have really stepped up, and what brands can people look towards if this is kind of like the scope of what they're looking at, that they can start to maybe go get the things that they need?
Yeah. So Pearl Izumi was my first sponsor, and they have done a good job. They got bought out, and their strategy has changed a little bit, but a lot of their stuff comes up to a 3X now, which is great. We have an entire list on the allbodiesonbikes.com website, and so I know I'm going to miss some of these. But Shredly, for example, they make women's apparel. Sorry, guys. I guess you could wear it too if you wanted to. But they go up to a size 24, which is pretty darn size inclusive. There's one brand called Fat Lad at the back. They're out of the UK.
Sounds like it, yeah.
I love it.
Fat Lad at the back.
Fat Lad at the back. They go up to a 6X, and it's like a true 6X.
Okay.
A couple others, Aerotech Designs. We actually had custom kits made for All Bodies on Bikes. They're open to the public from Champion System. And they go up to a 6X, exactly.
Sweet.
And anybody's welcome to buy those. Those are really cool because we've got, mountain bike jerseys if you like the more looser fitting stuff. We've got the actual race style kits, which makes me feel cool when I wear that.
What is your website again? What's the actual URL?
Allbodiesonbikes.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Very easy.
And then you're riding in Cannondale. Do they have they done anything specific that has kind of helped you? Or because unfortunately, there are bikes, and that weight threshold sometimes can be a bit on the low side.
I'm so glad you know this.
I've even flirted with it myself at certain points in my life, but that's something that a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, or even know that it exists.
Yeah.
So working with Cannondale right now to surface those weight limits, because yes, bikes have these weight limits, but figuring out what those are is another challenge. It's normally buried deep in the owner's manual, and sounds like your shop knows that bikes have weight limits, which is awesome. But sometimes people will go into shops and they'll get put on a lightweight carbon bike, and they're like, "Is this going to support me?" And they're like, "I don't know. Let me look into it." And so we're working on it.
Sure.
Yeah. Have you guys heard of the National Bicycle Dealers Association, the NBDA?
Yep.
So All Bodies on Bikes just joined as a member, which is really exciting. And we're working through them to try and make some standards around this, at least where the information is posted, whether it's on the geometry charts or wherever it needs to be so people can find the information.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is really cool. What else you got going on? You're on a little bit of a tour, 7-week tour, you said.
7-week tour, yeah.
You started from where and you came to here and you're going where? What's the deal with that?
So it was kind of built around these 5 events that I wanted to do. And I had this idea of van life. I did this same tour last year in my Kia Soul in a rooftop tent. And it was quite the adventure. It was fine, but I pitched a company called Van Do It and said, "Hey, I'm going on this trip. Any chance you want to let me borrow a van for the summer?" And they said yes. So I'm in this incredible built-out van. It has all my sponsors' logos on the sides of it. But I started in Bentonville, Arkansas, which is my home. I went out to Fort Collins, Colorado, and did the Foco Fondo.
Oh, yeah.
Really fun race. Whit and Zach Allison's race.
Yes.
And then I headed up to Montana for the last best ride out of Whitefish, Montana.
Sure.
All of these rides, if you don't have them on your calendar already, you should totally look into them. They're all amazing destination, mainly gravel. I love gravel.
Yeah.
I don't understand road riding, so
It does have some nuances to it, and then
It does.
some people that are very particular. But
every time Zwift tells me to hold the wheel, I'm like, "What are you talking about? I don't want to hold anybody's wheel."
go away. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I took kind of a 2-week break here in the Pacific Northwest, just seeing friends and going out to the ocean and seeing the big trees and filling my soul. This coming weekend is Joyride, put on by Cycle Oregon. It's a women, trans, femme, non-binary. I think we're riding on road. There is a gravel option, but we're riding on road, and it's just a celebration of all things bikes. And then I'll head down to Steamboat Gravel. All Bodies on Bikes has taken a team of not quote-unquote non-traditional athletes to Steamboat every year.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and then I'll finish up at Gravel Worlds in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Lincoln, Nebraska is hosting Gravel Worlds, huh?
Well, they call it Gravel Worlds.
Well, you
Yeah,
know what I mean.
they actually have the trademark on it because I
Yes,
think they've
they
been
do.
doing it for 10 or
Yes.
15
Really?
years now. Yeah, before there was actually a Gravel Worlds UCI thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this is just like their gravel worlds. But it's just like a normal gravel race.
What's the guy's name who runs that race?
Jason.
Jason. He is a riot. He's a great guy, great promoter. He was at the Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder the whole week with us. He's just a fun guy, and he's been putting on this race for 10 years or 12 years.
Is this the national championship?
No, that's
thing?
like a week or two later in the same area.
Gotcha.
Yeah, also in Nebraska, but not on the World Championship
That's
course.
funny that they
World's course, gravel World's course.
Gotcha.
It's so great.
It's so funny.
It's like brilliant, like marketing. He just called the race Gravel
Gravel
Worlds,
Worlds.
and he got the trademark.
I might have to go check that out one of these years. My whole family's from Nebraska.
Have you ever ridden there?
No, I was there when I was a kid back in the early 80s. And then I was there, about a decade ago to go watch a Husker game because it was kind of beat into me as a child that you're going to be a Husker fan. So I've been a Husker fan my whole life. And we went back and watched the game, which was fantastic. And I'd like to go back more because my family back there they're fantastic people. They own 30,000 acres of ranch land.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a massive, massive, operation that they've
We
got
can
going
put
on.
on our own course on that.
Yes. And I can remember when I was back there as a kid for a family reunion, like I was with all of my cousins and uncles, and they're all like rodeo experts, like actually on the circuit making big money doing this whole thing. But then they come back for ranch life, and you've got, branding that has to happen, or it's pretty common back there that lightning will hit cows, and obviously they get killed. But if you get them early enough, you can harvest the meat. But a lot of times it fits in certain. Huh?
Is it pre-cooked?
It's pre-cooked, yeah. You just have to eat that bad boy.
Flash fried.
But if the cows had calves, then they would have to go and find the calves and make sure that they're with somebody so that they're not going to die because you got to take care of your herd. But you had to go out there and catch the calves. So we're riding around in these trucks in the middle of like these farmland, ranch land, rolling hills, and all these fun things. And they had me and my cousins in the back of the thing, and they're like, "Okay, jump off this truck that's driving, tackle the cow, and we'll lasso him, and we'll tie him up, and we'll get him branded. We'll do." And we're like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome." I think I was 8 or 9 years old when
You're
this was
jumping
happening.
off the truck.
Could you imagine like parents telling their kids to do that now, or seeing something like that happen now? It was just hilarious that we're jumping out of the back of a moving truck, tackling cows, and then they're lassoing the cows, and then because they're screwing around with us, they're lassoing us and they're hog tying us on the ground. And
Oh
it was
my
just
gosh.
these were the best times. So
Nebraska's surprisingly hilly.
yeah,
I did a race there in June and was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just never ends.
Yeah.
You can see the top of the next 3 hills
Yep.
for the top of the one you're on.
Yeah. So anyway, Nebraska's cool. Right on.
That was a good tangent. I like that.
Tackling cows.
You didn't think you'd be talking about that today, did you? Going back to the adventure van that you had, the Van Do It, I actually had one of those for about a year and loved it. The only downside for me was I've got a family of 5 and it was a touch bit too small. So we sold that and got a Sprinter, and then sold that Sprinter and got another Sprinter that I still need to build out. Going back to this, though, it's got to be perfect for you. And it's very modular. You can move it around. You can customize it and do all the things. How are you digging the van life?
Oh, it's fun. They've got it built out so I can sleep in there. I can work in there. I've got a desk. I've got internet. I paid Elon Musk to get the Starlink internet or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. I could be in the middle of Wyoming podcasting.
Yeah.
And then take a nap, make my lunch.
Yep.
It's incredible.
You're not going to give that back, are you?
We'll see.
Give it back to who?
To Van Do It. So
Oh.
They actually loaned you the van.
They
for
loaned
the
me
whole
the
I
van.
for the
see.
summer.
Yeah, they
What a
built
great
it
deal.
out specifically for me. They said, "What do you want in there?" And I said, "I don't know. What are my options?" And they said, "What are you going to be doing?" And I said, "Podcasting, working, sleeping, eating, riding my bike." And so I've got 2 bikes with me and
Sure.
the whole
Oh,
deal.
that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really incredible.
She's really doing it. She's really doing the professional cyclist thing.
Yeah.
We are all just posers.
Hacks, yeah.
Hacks, completely hacks.
To be fair, I have massive imposter syndrome.
No, don't. You shouldn't at all. You have this huge following, and you've started this whole movement that is just like, it's changing the cycling industry. No, you should be nothing but proud for
Well, thank
what
you.
you've done.
Thank you.
I've run across your name before in the past, and then Lance mentioned that he ran into you at some of these races and talked to you, and then I went and kind of dug around a little bit more, and I'm like, dude, do you think she would join us on the podcast? And then he's like, yeah, let me look into it, and I'm starting to do more research, and bikes in general just make me happy, but you put like a big smile on my face with what you're doing. It's absolutely incredible. The positivity that you're bringing to the world of cycling and bringing more people in this, under the guise of like, let's be inclusive. Yes, let's do that. And, Lance will tell you, like, I'm always trying to, bring as many people into the sport because there's so much joy that it's given me over the years. I just want people to feel that and understand that. And you don't have to come into this thing and being able to put out an FTP of 400 and being able to be at the pointy end of an A race or anything like that. Just go ride your bike.
Yeah.
How many world problems would be solved if people just went out and spent a little bit of time on their bikes?
Seriously. And the thing that I love about bikes is there's so many different ways to find joy.
Yes.
You know, whether it's racing, whether it's going really, really hard, or riding with your kids, or mountain biking, or just silly things.
Yeah, and there's so many bikes for so many different things, and it doesn't have to be super expensive, and it can be a ton of fun. And gravel racing, mountain bike racing, road riding, time trialing, cargo bikes, commuting. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. You're getting that endorphin rush. You're meeting cool people. You're generally happy because of all of these things. We've got to figure out a way to get more people to do this. And that's why we sit here and we talk about this stuff on a podcast that, a couple people listen to. And having you come in made my day. So
thank you.
Yeah,
this is really cool.
Yeah,
One of the things we try to do, we have a Friday ride during the summer it's called our Fog Hat Friday Slow Ride.
So
Okay.
you know the band Fog Hat, right?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's from the 70s.
Well, you've heard the song Slow Ride, Take It Easy.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The name of that band is Fog Hat. That's
Okay.
why we called it. And it's just a talking piece. People are like, Fog Hat? Why did you name your ride Fog Hat? What's all that?
it's a slow ride.
Right, slow ride, take it easy. And
What does a slow ride mean to you?
we ride at the pace of the slowest rider, and
Yes.
we let them wear that as a badge of honor. And we stop for everybody. Everybody gets to come, and it's about an hour and 10 minutes. And if there's a hill, we'll wait at the top of the hill until the last person comes up, or we'll have people circle back around with them and ride back up with them. And if you get dropped for any reason, we'll stop and wait for you. If anybody gets a mechanical, we'll stop and wait for you. And we do themed nights. It's
That's
just
great.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
that sounds like all bodies on bikes rides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That-
It can oftentimes feel too slow. And we tell people at the beginning of, hey, if you're here to rip your legs off, this is not the
not
ride
it.
for you.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we usually don't exceed 10 miles an hour.
Yeah, and Lance will tell you too. Like I'm the one that puts all of our rides together, and it's usually 4 or 5 rides a week, and we'll do it pretty much, I don't know, from March until after Labor Day, and then even there's more rides once it's not that time of the year. But it's kind of a selfish thing that I did in terms of how I designed the rides, because it fits my training schedule. I'm like, I need to make sure that if I'm going to do an active recovery, a simple, easy leg spin, and not go stupid fast, I need to put something on the calendar that will, meet that. And so Fridays are that's a good active recovery day, and that's why we do that ride. So,
That's great. I love that.
and it just keeps you in check.
Yeah. And then in theory, if somebody was interested in getting faster, that would be a good opportunity to
Yep.
be in a supportive environment
Yep.
where they can progressively get faster. And
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really nice too, because you can have some cool conversations, and we have a lot of people that want to join our team, and we really like to get to know them as best as we possibly can before we bring them on, just make sure that we're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for us. And that's the perfect place to invite them to come out, just to make sure that that they can stay disciplined and get a chance to chat with them on a slow ride and see how things work out. And that works out good there too. So, and just a lot of people in the community like to come out to that ride because they get to know more people, and
Yeah.
relationships are born out of that, and they'll come out and try other rides, and just good times.
I love that.
Cool. What else you guys? You got?
I have a whole list of questions from listeners, actually. Do you want me to start digging through some of those?
Yes.
All right.
I'm ready.
Okay. This first one's from Dan Beal. One of his questions is, what is your favorite region to ride gravel? What's your dream destination ride?
I have really fallen in love with Arkansas gravel. I didn't expect to. And you've ridden Big Sugar before, correct?
I have not.
You've not. Okay.
But I know about Rule of Three. I know about Big Sugar. I've ridden a lot of those roads, but I haven't done any of those races.
Okay, but you're familiar with Arkansas gravel. It is not easy.
No.
It's technical, it's chunky, it's big climbs followed by big descents, and then you just do it all over again. And riding there has made me such a stronger cyclist. So I just have to say my home region. Also, the fact that I've got gravel 2 miles out my front door.
Yeah.
Dream cycling destination? Probably Alaska.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard like up in Denali, there's apparently a gravel ride that you can do. Little scared of the bears there, but I would love to spend some time up there just riding around.
Yeah, don't the Tour Divide riders have to carry bear spray there's a big section of the ride where they have to carry bear spray with them?
I was just in Montana for the last best ride, and you have to have bear spray.
Oh, you do?
You do, yeah. And so I had it in my jersey pocket, and like, if a bear actually comes up, I'm not going to know what to do. Let's be honest here.
Right.
But thankfully, no bears. Although it was prime huckleberry season. It was funny. There's a a 6-mile climb in the middle of that ride, and there were just tons of families out picking huckleberries, and it took everything in me to not just stop and pick huckleberries. And like,
I do the same thing here with blackberries, and it's that time of year. Those are my
Yes.
trail treats, and I'll specifically sometimes make my routes so I can have like multiple points to stop and just feed myself a bunch of blackberries.
it's such a treat up here in the
Yeah.
Northwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
that.
That's a good one.
Another one from Sarah Gates. Sarah Gates is on our team, but she is actually on the board of directors for Cycle Oregon, so she will probably be at the Joyride that you're doing in the Ty Valley
Yes.
this weekend. She said, what do you look for in an event ride?
I love this question because I get contacted by events all the time to, hey, will you come out? Will you do an All Bodies on Bikes ride? We'd love to have you. And I'm looking for inclusive practices. Do they have a gender expansive category or a non-binary category? Even though I don't fall into that, I identify as a cisgender woman. I have a lot of friends who are non-binary or transgender. Are they going to be welcome to ride there? Is there a paracycling category? I also look at the distances. Is there an accessible distance for folks who are just getting into the sport? So I think about Mid-South Gravel as a great example. So they've got a 12-mile distance, they have a 50, and they have a 100. And those are all three great points or great distances for folks. But that 12-mile really especially lets folks who might be a little curious. I remember the first time I rode 10 miles, I thought I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
Like the first time you actually go a significant distance under your own power feels incredible. Other things, I just kind of look for a general vibe sense. Is it fun? Is it does it fit with the All Bodies on Bikes ethos? Do they appreciate people of all sizes? Who do they have in their marketing? If I look at their apparel choices, are they working with a vendor that has bigger sizes available? And that won't usually be like a make or break thing for me, but I will ask the organizers, hey guys, like, is it possible to get bigger sizes from the jerseys that you have?
That's great.
Yeah.
I like that little
and
icing on the
these
cake. Yeah.
events don't need to be competitive, right? I mean,
No.
have you done the Portland Bridge Pedal?
I have not.
I did that with my family, my 2 girls. It must
Isn't
be
that-
10 years ago.
Isn't
now,
that
but
this weekend?
It is.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's Saturday.
It's,
Oh,
it's
fun.
a really cool event. Thousands of participants. I mean, they basically closed the whole of downtown Portland.
That's so
down.
cool. I did get to do the oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking. It's in New York. It's the 5-borough tour in New York.
Okay.
And so if you haven't done that one, put that one on your list. They close off 40 miles of New York streets on a Sunday morning, and you're riding with 50,000 other people. I've never
Yeah.
seen that many people on bikes. It was absolutely incredible.
It sounds similar to the bridge pedal. Here in Portland, they closed the freeway. I mean, you go across the freeway bridge and
Wow.
it's empty. There's no traffic on it. I mean, it's not a good time to be trying to drive somewhere
No.
Right.
across town, but it's a good event, definitely.
That fat picture of myself that I showed you this morning was on the bridge pedal.
Okay.
Like in 2014
Oh,
or
yeah,
something.
I've got one of those.
I showed her.
And again, fat, not a bad word.
Yes.
It was just a descriptor of your body type at
Yes.
the time.
Yes.
She's taking it back, ladies and gentlemen. She owns it, and I love it.
Well, I still call myself the dad bod racer because I am not skinny and tiny like most of my competitors that I'm racing with. So it always makes me happy when I beat the skinny guys.
I'm not
in my
small
dad
either,
bod.
and it's a big compliment to me when I can hang with some of these skinny climber guys, and they're like, "You're too big to be here with us." I'm like,
Yeah, I like that too. I usually will like leapfrog with people. They'll pass me on the uphill.
Yeah.
And then I love descending.
She's a bomber, yeah.
I love it. And so I'll pass them and then they catch me again on the next hill and we just do that all day long. But it feels pretty good.
Yeah.
At Unbound this year, I did the 100 mile. I think you did the 50 mile.
I did the 50. I regretted it. Because I did the 100 the last 2 years.
Okay.
And so when I finished the 50, I was like, I wish I was still out
That
there.
was it,
Which
yeah.
I've never said that before about anything. But I love the Unbound 100. Anyway.
I remember passing you on like the last big climb of the whole course, and it took me a minute. I'm riding up on you, and I'm like, oh, check her out. She is freaking killing it. And I ride past, and I'm like, that was Marley.
Oh.
Wait, that was Marley. But I was too far past you by the time I realized who it was you anyway. It just made me. I like smiled when I saw you.
I love that.
Like, thank goodness that people are out here. So I just
Yeah.
it made me happy.
Unbound it gets a reputation of being a really hard race. And
Yeah.
it can be, depending on the weather and the direction.
Sure.
But it's also a really fun race.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because none of the climbs are ever super brutal.
Nope.
Yeah.
And unless you get a mud section, it's a very doable race.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. Other people might disagree.
Have you? And you mentioned that you're going to Steamboat. Have you been there before?
I
and
have.
done
I've
that?
done
Yeah.
it the last 4 years.
Yeah.
3 years, 4 years.
So I think that has some really good options for
it does.
entry level athletes, shall we say? Yeah.
Yeah, like the 36 mile, and
right.
they allow e-bikes
Right.
on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
It was
Steamboat's a really great one too.
It was a great event. Yeah. For sure.
And beautiful out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Lance, you got some more questions?
Yeah. Another one from Sarah Gates. I just lost it. How do we make riders who can't keep up or have no interest in keeping up feel welcome on group rides?
That's a really tough question. I think if you don't have any interest in keeping up, maybe find a different group ride. I question if you don't have any interest in keeping up with the group, why are you on the group ride at all? But if you can't keep up with them, maybe find a ride that's more appropriate for your skill level. And I hate the word skill level because you could be a very advanced rider and just slow.
Right.
I kind of consider myself in that category. Like I hate when the word beginner is used for the slow ride because beginner doesn't necessarily equal slow, advanced doesn't necessarily equal fast, etc.
And like we were talking about earlier, some of that comes down to the ride organizers as well.
100%.
To make it clear what the intentions of that ride are, right?
Yeah.
We have a ride that we do on Thursday nights. It's a race-paced ride. We call it our flogging ride. We don't flog the you-know-what out of each other. And what has worked really well for that ride is I wanted to have a race-paced ride where everybody can come out and try it out. But like if you have everybody start at the same time, there's going to be a natural selection very early in the ride, and all of a sudden you're just riding by yourself. So we actually started doing multiple groups. We've got an A, B, C, and a D group.
Nice.
And they are all started 5 minutes apart. So the A group will start 15 minutes after the D group when they first get going. And we have a regroup spot, and it works out really well because we all get to this regroup spot at about the same time. And then the second half of the ride, it is a kind of a thing where we do leave the regroup together, but it's mostly flat, and you can hang on to the group for a long, long time because it's flat. You can sit in the draft, and you're just getting pulled down the road, and that's really cool. And there will be a couple spots where things will get separated, but people have really loved that. And what's nice is they can come out and they can be competitive against people that have their same ability level. And if they keep coming out, I've seen so many people come out and start in the D group and get dropped by the D group going to the first regroup. They'll keep coming out, and all of a sudden they're keeping up, and then they'll keep coming out, and all of a sudden they're at the front end, and then they'll keep coming out, and then they're going to start upgrading to the next group, and they just get this natural progression. That has worked really well for us. And what I really get excited about is because we love racing, and we want to bring more people into the race community, and we also want to be inclusive. And you'll have people come out and they'll fall in love with this, and then they'll pin on a number for the very first time. They'll go register for their very first race, and then they just they're in hook, line, and sinker. They love it, and it's just kind of been this nice little launching pad to get a bunch of people come out to do races. So
that's so cool.
That has worked out well.
I think it's all about communication.
Yeah.
So for that rider who's continually getting dropped, making sure that they're, like I said, going to a ride that's more appropriate for them. But then it's on the ride organizers to say, what's the pace?
Yep.
Are there regroup points? Are we sticking together? Is it no drop? And that's a challenge that I would put onto ride organizers is the more information you can communicate to people, the better your ride's going to be because people are going to know what to expect, and then it's going to be an appropriate ride for them. Like your lunch ride, for example, that I was invited on today. I looked at it and you said, zone 2. And I said, well, my zone 2 is a lot different than your zone 2. But you guys put on there, it was 180 to 220 watts. Like that would not be zone 2 for me. That would be like zone 5. We're going really hard.
Yeah.
But that's a great example of the communication.
More detail in the description.
Exactly. Yeah. So people can really say, yeah, I'll have fun on that ride. It'll be a challenge for me. Or, hey, no, that's not an appropriate ride for me.
Yeah. And we've really subscribed to that a lot over the years because we don't want people to show up and get a sour taste in their mouth like, oh, this was supposed to be this kind of a ride, and that's what it said. Then you guys all just went super hard. Well, if we give them those details, then they know, okay, this is what I have to expect. And if it's a zone 2 for us and it's a zone 4 for you, maybe that's a good day for you to come out and do your interval stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we say, like, you don't have to take any pulls at the front. So sit back and get pulled along and, work a little less hard. Maybe that is a zone 2 for you.
Yeah.
So that's worked out really well. And then the flogging ride, the description on that, I don't know if you get a chance to look at that one too.
I did not see that one, no.
It's a novel, but again,
It's long.
There's a lot of information in there, and it's just really just kind of giving people like the mindset of like, this is what to expect. Here are some of the rules of the road, because you'll get people that want to come out and race, and there's like this light switch that gets turned off, and like all of a sudden we just turn into a bunch of knuckleheads and doing stupid things. You got to remember,
Roads aren't closed.
The roads
We have
aren't
to be
closed.
safe.
Yeah, you can't be
Yeah.
running stop signs or passing on the wrong side of the road or doing stuff like that.
Even during races, some of the things
Yeah.
I see people do, I'm like, these roads aren't closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
most
scary.
gravel races, the roads aren't closed.
No,
Yeah.
it's really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned Steamboat on their 36 mile. They allow e-bikes.
Mm-hmm.
We had a question from Tom Burkumpus. He asked, what role do e-bikes play in your efforts to get everyone on a bike?
Oh, they're huge. They're,
yeah.
I mean, it's taking that barrier to entry and making it even lower. So, maybe you have some mobility challenges, maybe you have some endurance challenges. Like an e-bike lets you go further. It lets you actually ride a bike. When e-bikes first came out, I was a commuter in Seattle, and I used to get so frustrated just watching people zoom past me on the hill. And then one day I tried one, and I was like, wow, this is a game changer.
Yeah.
How big of a smile did it put on your face
Oh
the
my
very
gosh,
first time?
huge. And it was like
yeah.
one of those Lime bikes,
just-
nothing
yeah,
fancy,
yeah.
but I was like, wow.
You giggle every time you get on one of those for the first time. I still giggle when I get on them. And Lance and I were we finished building a couple of these rad power bikes for some people, and we had to go out and test ride them. And we're just like giggling. We're like riding all around the block and stuff like that, kind of racing each other. It just doesn't stop.
No. So,
Yeah, you probably don't want to know that when you bring your bike to the lab, it gets test ridden before we give it back to you, and we have fun on your bike.
It's like the valet on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yeah.
I've had my mechanics send me pictors on my bike before. I'm
Wait. You have a mechanic too?
Yeah, see?
Well-
Look at this.
It's a Soigneur.
Rare.
No. I mean, I go
And
to.
a soigneur.
A masseuse.
I'm sure if I
Chef.
put the call out, it would happen. But no, I pay to have my bikes worked on, just like a normal person. Yeah.
Anyway,
I do always feel cool when I get the receipt back and it says like pro bike build. Because I'll just take them the box from Cannondale and say, all right, build it up. Let's make sure all the right parts are on there.
Yeah.
And it says pro.
Sweet. Well, you are. I mean, it is what it is. Good stuff.
All right, another question from Dan Beal. What direction do you think cycling events are headed? We've seen a reduction in pure road races, growth in gravel rides and races, and Portland continually has oddball events. Is this part of a larger trend?
I think so. I think as more and more people get into riding bikes, there's a desire for community and there's a desire to just be together. And so whether it's like the Lads 500, where they're doing 500 laps around Lad Circle, or
on a giant bike or riding backwards.
I just hit my head on the mic. I think it will continue to get sillier. I think more gravel events will come up as people. I think road racing is, and this is my own personal opinion, people are afraid of cars, and rightfully so. I've had way too many friends get hit by cars. Thank goodness you're still here. But I do think it's a bigger trend towards more irreverent, silly things. I think we saw running go through something similar with the growth of 5Ks and 10Ks and more people getting into it. And so I think cycling will go that direction.
I got a question to kind of springboard off of this. If you were to put on your promoter hat and design a race, what would that race look like? You have to have something bouncing around in your head. If you were to go do this, what would we see? What would we be signing up for?
Yeah, I would love to do an all bodies on bikes event one day. I think it would be, a 25, 50, 100 mile.
Sure.
Because I think it's important to have those longer distances. The finish line would be open until the last person comes across.
Okay.
We would have plenty of aid stations out there. Lots of extended sizing, and it would be probably a gravel event with slip and slides.
Ooh, Nelly, that's what I was looking for right there.
Some slip and slide.
Some slip and slides, maybe some pools to jump into.
Will you ever do this?
I don't know. I would like to say yes, but now that we're a nonprofit, I have like a board to report to and strategic planning and
Who would say no to that, though?
insurance.
You think so?
Maybe.
I don't know. There's a lot of insurance companies out there that have put on crazier things or said okay to crazier things.
It's
so,
true.
Yeah.
I used to put on this women's alley cat in Seattle. It was like a women trans femme alley cat. And we would have our male friends work the stops. And we would give them a manifest with, 5 or 6 different places to go around town and just do silly things. And that was so much fun. So I would love to do something like that again too.
Sweet.
Okay, so springboarding off that, we actually have a question from David Bussey. Have the pro riders ruined gravel?
Oh.
Because it has changed.
Am I going to get in trouble for this?
No.
Well, no, nobody listens to this show anyway, Marley.
Oh, I would say some of the road pros that are coming over to gravel need to shake shake off their seriousness a little bit. You know, take a lesson from Sarah Sturm, and gravel is supposed to be fun.
Just smile.
Just smile.
Should there be
It's
like a hazing period that we have to put them through
Right.
before they can actually like put that pro cap back on? Like they have to go wear like jorts and I don't know,
A denim vest
a denim
and-
vest or something like that. And, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Or make them wear some skinny tires on a gravel ride.
it does feel like it's getting really serious at the pointy end of things.
Yeah.
And then people want to mimic their heroes and emulate them, and so then they get more serious. You know, I still love events like Mid-South Gravel. I've mentioned them a couple times because it does feel like it still has that kind of renegade DIY spirit where you can come across wearing jorts and have a great time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. If you want to go fast, that's fine. Go fast. But I don't know. If it's like souling everybody's experience, though, that's where I would have a problem with it.
The more money that there is in gravel racing, the more professionals will show up for that. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw that at Unbound this year when Chad Haga showed up with a whole team of guys to help him.
Yeah.
And so it does change the vibe a little bit.
Yeah.
Different than when it was just 5 years ago. It was very different. You'd go to these gravel events. But
It does make me snicker a little bit, though, watching some of these guys having to, I don't know, fix a flat tire or plug a flat tire when they don't have a team support car to
Yeah,
come
I
through.
think-
It's like, they're
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I do this? You know, it's like the famous thing where Lance Armstrong doesn't know how to change a tube in a tire kind of a thing. So
right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But it's funny though, because I ride at the back of the pack. It just so happens that way. And back there, nobody cares about the pros.
Yeah.
Nobody cares who's
Yeah.
winning. They're just out there to have a good time and to ride their bikes. It's
Yeah.
not even a race for them.
Just to
So-
get to the finish line, to complete the event.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
Yep. Yeah.
you know, so long as it's like just bikes, cycling in general, like everything's welcome, everything's good, as long as none of that's getting sullied and we're not shunning people for riding a commuter bike. You know, that's fine. Just let everybody go out there and enjoy it the way they want to enjoy it, and I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah. I wish the industry would pay more attention to the back half of the pack, though.
Yeah.
Just in terms of our equipment needs, the way that we ride, that sort of thing. Because it does feel like as gravel is getting more professional, all of the attention is there, which makes sense because that's where the money is at. But the back of the pack spends money on bikes too, as it turns out.
I was just going to say, like the front end is the one that's getting paid, but the back end is the one that's paying for it. So
Yeah.
you got to
Yes.
pay just as much attention to that as you are.
I think even down here at the local level, our local gravel races, you see a huge difference between the gravel events and the road events, where you turn up to the gravel events and there's a whole gamut of people's motivation for being there, you know, from doing well, from trying to win the race to just finishing the course.
Yeah.
Whereas when you go to a road event, everybody's being so competitive, you know, the whole field. So at the gravel events I've been to, a huge field, but 2/3 of those people have no interest whatsoever in being competitive.
Yeah.
The challenge is completing the course, or the
Yeah.
challenge is having
Getting
the
a
best
PR or
day
something.
possible
Exactly.
out on your bike, which
Yep.
is refreshing, right? But,
Yeah. Good.
yeah.
That's all the listener questions. What others you guys got?
What are you doing for kids? You got kids that are in the realm of like needing a little bit more inclusivity or having issues with weight and being afraid to ride bikes. I mean, what are we doing there?
So no official programs yet. Still trying to get the adult or the all age programs, but kids are welcome on our rides.
Okay.
As long as they can pedal independently and can go the distance that the ride is going.
Sweet. Yeah.
So we generally say, no Strider bikes. Kids are welcome in tag along trailers. And then just trying to emulate a healthy lifestyle.
Sure.
We talk about riding bikes for joy. We don't talk about weight loss. And so just trying to demonstrate that. But I'm also personally trying to get involved in NICA. If
really?
y'all are familiar with NICA,
Absolutely,
the National
yeah.
Interscholastic Cycling Association, I gave a talk at their leadership conference, and now I'm getting involved in Arkansas NICA.
Sweet.
So I'll be hopefully helping coach some kiddos and
Yeah.
get them excited about it.
Gotcha. You put on some workshops, and I'm curious what those are all about. What's a typical workshop look like?
Yeah, so it depends on who it's being offered to. But if I'm giving a workshop to the bike industry, let's say Shimano, for example, we're talking about size inclusion. So we're talking about language, why we use the word fat, why we don't like the word obese, why it's important to have components for everybody. That is kind of that was a very condensed version of it.
Can you
but-
explain that? Why do you use the word fat, and why don't we like the word obese?
Yeah. I'll talk about obese first. So obese is based off of the BMI. obese and overweight. Those are categories in the BMI.
Mm-hmm.
And the BMI was never intended to be used on an individual basis. It was developed by a statistician back in the 1800s to look at population levels and population sizes. It was built around a white male body type. So it's not inclusive of women. It's not inclusive of other races and how different people carry their weight. And it's just a super medicalized term.
The fact that we even still use the BMI blows my head. It really does. It's like
It takes two numbers.
Yeah,
And like
it's ridiculous. And,
Yeah.
and you can have people that are like crazy fit, and the BMI is calling them obese, and it's just utterly ridiculous.
Did you
Yeah.
see the female rugby player
Yes.
that has just
Yes.
taken over the world by storm after the Olympics? Ilona Maher, or I think is her name.
Okay.
American. She posted a thing on Instagram that said, "I have a BMI of 30 and I'm considered obese.
Yeah.
I'm in the Olympics and you are not."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
something like that. Like
and it
just
shows
bullcrap.
the problems with it.
Yeah.
It's based off of two numbers, and you can't judge somebody's health based off of it. So we just don't like to use that term. It's super medical, and if your doctor wants to use that term, it's fine. But we prefer to talk about people in bigger bodies, people in smaller bodies, fat bodies, because those are just neutral terms. I will say I will not call somebody else fat unless they self-identify that way, because it is still such an emotionally charged
Yes.
word. So if I'm talking about other folks, it's people in bigger bodies, people in smaller bodies, and that's just objective. You can see bigger, smaller. It's easy to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple.
So yeah, with the advocacy that you're engaged in for people being more accepted for who they are, is there also a component? Do you advocate for using cycling in any way as a weight management tool? Do you acknowledge that?
We don't even get into that conversation.
Okay.
We talk about cycling as a way of joyfully moving your body. But to us, it's not our business. If you're riding to lose weight, if you're riding to manage your mental health, like whatever, that's your business. And we don't even get into that.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we actually say that in the values of the organization is that we use cycling as a form of joyful movement. And we also talk about being a weight neutral space. And so we don't talk about weight at all as an organization.
So,
Is that
in your-
because there's potential for people to start to have an unhealthy relationship with food and with mental health if they're trying to use cycling for
100%.
weight loss?
Yeah.
Okay.
And cycle, anytime you bring exercise into the conversation, it becomes a slippery slope towards weight loss and health and fitness
Yes.
and all of this stuff. And so we just say we are a weight neutral organization. We don't talk about earning our food, at the end of a ride, like, oh, we all just earned some ice cream. No, if you want ice cream, go eat some ice cream. You don't need to exercise to deserve it.
Yeah.
So we just kind of set those boundaries pretty firmly and say, nope, we're not even going there.
Gotcha. Do you use a power meter?
I don't. I want to, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mainly so I can compare. This is bad, but mainly so I can compare myself to other people. So like when I'm going slower than them, like, oh no, I'm still putting out the same number of watts.
Sure.
But because of gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there's a negative connotation that comes along with using the power meter based on the fact that a lot of people will look at the relationship of watts to your kilogram, your weight? So like figuring out what that number is. I mean, does that?
I don't think so because
Yeah.
I mean it's still basic physics.
Yeah.
Power to weight ratio is a thing.
Yep.
And as my body has changed, it's gotten smaller over the past year. I realized I can climb a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
And that it's just physics.
Yeah.
So I don't see it as a negative thing. The type of cycling that we're doing with all bodies on bikes, we're not really concerned about power meter or going fast.
But it's such an invaluable tool, and you can do so much with it. And I personally, I don't get into the watts per kilogram thing. Because I know that I'm built a little bit bigger. I've got a mesomorphic body build, and it's really easy for me to blink and be 230 pounds. And then if I super focus, I can get down to 180 pounds, and I'm pretty much usually somewhere in that range. And I just know that I'm never going to keep up with a pure climber on a super long climb. I will crush them on the downhills and I will crush them on the flats. That's all good. But I don't get into that watts per kilogram because I just know it doesn't make me feel any better about myself to say like, I'm striving to get to that 5 watts per kilogram thing. But I love to look at my rides and know like, hey, I was able to have this normalized power. Or I hit this in a sprint. Or if I'm going to go out and I'm training, I know what my zone 2 is. Or if I'm going to do intervals and I can compare those things. That's a fantastic tool. I don't know. I like the fact though that you're like curious about that. Like
Yeah.
you want to know like how you're performing, but you don't give two craps about the fact that like what your watts per kilogram is. It's fantastic. That's
only
a
care about
healthy
it on
use of-
Zwift.
Yeah. Okay.
That's because it's thrown right in
Right
front of your
there.
face.
Yeah.
It's right there.
I will say, so last year we had some requests from folks to do inclusive virtual rides.
Okay.
And Zwift makes it really easy. They have that rubber band feature. And so we've been doing weekly, not during the summer, but we'll start them back up in the fall, weekly group rides on Zwift, which is so cool because people can use that as their workout, or if they just want to pedal, we just get on there for an hour and we have the stick together feature going, and it's really cool.
So you're building some pretty sweet communities. Where are some places that people can connect to you? Are you on Strava? Do you have a Facebook group? Do you have...
Yes,
Are
yes.
you on all the different social medias? Like, where can everybody go find you? Let's just run through that rapid fire.
We've got a Strava club, All Bodies on Bikes. If you look
Okay.
that up, would love to have folks join and share their successes and create challenges. And we also have a Facebook group, which might be one of the most positive Facebook groups I've ever encountered.
Really?
People are just posting their successes of, I got back on a bike for the first time in 30 years today. I rode 10 miles today. And it's people on recumbent bikes. It's people on e-bikes. It's across the spectrum. So those are probably the two most interactive places. We are working on a membership program for All Bodies on Bikes that will hopefully come out this fall, and that'll be essentially a fundraising tool for us.
Sure.
But if you, similar to like public radio, you donate a certain amount, you become a member of All Bodies on Bikes, and you get a cool hat or you get a water bottle or something. But we're still developing a lot of it. But
Okay.
I'd say Strava and Facebook are the main places. And then you can follow along on Instagram. All of our chapters have Instagram pages.
Okay.
So All Bodies on Bikes _ Denver, All Bodies on Bikes _ Chicago. And then all of our rides are always free to join. So if there's one in your area, please come join us and come along for the fun.
Sweet. And on Instagram, what's the handle? Again, it's
At
just
All Bodies on Bikes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you have your personal Instagram, which is
At Marley Blonsky.
gotcha.
Yep. And that is a hodgepodge of the chaos of my life. It's funny because other, quote unquote influencers, I get lumped into the influencer category
Sure.
quite a bit, are very strategic and they have color schemes and they plan out their social calendar. And mine is, I did a cool thing today. You guys want to see
Check
it?
this out.
My life is really boring. I'm just going to sit on here and talk for 10 minutes.
Are you on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay.
Both All Bodies on Bikes and Marley Blonsky.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of content are you putting out these days?
Not a lot.
Not a lot?
A little bit of van life content.
Okay.
And then all of our podcasts also go on there. So we also have a podcast also called All Bodies on Bikes.
Gotcha. I'm sure that's probably on all the platforms too.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. I should probably trademark that at some point.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's going across many different platforms. That might not be a bad idea.
You guys are a registered 501c3
We are.
nonprofit? Okay,
We
that's
are.
fantastic.
Yep.
And then sponsors, do you guys have any like big sponsors that you have in your targets that you're trying to like nail down? Maybe somebody knows somebody that listens to this podcast that can...
Yes and no. So we just got a big grant from the Walton Family Foundation.
Oh, there you go.
Which is really exciting. Will let us do some really foundational work and kind of get the nuts and bolts built up. We're also supported by REI, Fat Tire. I'm going to get myself in trouble for not knowing the other ones. Smart Wool gave us a big donation. Shimano gave us a donation. So we've got lots of different sponsors across the board.
Wow. You're doing it right.
I know.
Yeah,
Love
it's cool because I think a lot of us think about pro cyclists as just the pointy end of the race.
Yep.
But there are quite a few of us who are building community. I think about Brooke Gowdy. She does Black Girls Do Bike and does a lot of work to get Black women on the bikes. She's also a professional cyclist. Meg Fisher, paracyclist, also getting paid by brands to build community around paracycling and inclusion. So I'm not the only one, but there's a lot of good work happening out
The
there.
Minervinator. Have you met her?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
She's
Her name's Myrna Valerio. She's a plus size Black woman. She mainly does trail running, but she also rides bikes. And,
Sweet.
yeah.
What do you think some of the biggest challenges are for the cycling community as a whole right now?
Ooh.
It's a very...
Safety.
Safety? Okay.
Safety. I think as cars and trucks are getting bigger, people are more distracted. Finding safe places to ride. I think also just kind of bridging the divide between commuters and people who are riding their bikes every day to get around and like the recreational cyclists,
Sure.
Realizing we're all on the same team here just because we like to ride bikes in different ways. And then just continuing to move towards inclusion.
Yeah. How would you promote just creating that connection between cyclists and motorists. Motorists like see us and like we're this inanimate object that's in their way, that's slowing them down, or that they're mad because they see us out enjoying ourselves on a bike and they're in a car, and there's just like this disconnect there.
Yeah.
How do we bridge that gap? How do we create this like sense of like, all right, these are actually people, they're good people, and let's not run them over with our cars.
Yeah, I think some creative marketing, maybe some PSAs about, yes, you see me in my helmet and my Lycra, but I'm also a dad. I'm also a school teacher. I'm also, whatever it might be to humanize us, because I think it does. And I will say my experience road cycling is very different than my male friends. I don't know if it's because I have like a non-traditional body type and people see me and they're like, what's going on there? But I hardly ever get run off the road. I don't get yelled at. I just have a different experience.
I saw a study once where you were far more likely to be run off the road or involved in some kind of incident if you were dressed or looked like a cyclist rather than somebody just riding a bike. So if you're in your regular clothes without a helmet, you're less likely to be dehumanized, to people can relate to you somehow. You're less likely to be involved in an incident.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a crazy one.
Yeah, I can attest to it though. Like when I go out riding with my male friends, like we get treated differently than when I go out with my female friends.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I'm just waiting for that day that all cars are autonomous and programmed not to run over people. So people can sit
Let's
back.
hope they program them that way.
Yeah, let's hope. Well, I am fresh out of questions here. Do you guys have anything else?
What are we missing that you really want to talk about?
That's a great question. Oh gosh. I think just asking people to have more empathy towards people in bigger bodies.
Yeah.
I think about some of the things that have been said to me while I'm climbing a hill. And if I could just ask people like, hey, think twice before you say something to somebody while they're maybe struggling, maybe not struggling while climbing a hill. What's the intent behind what you're saying? Are you saying it to be encouraging? Are you saying it more for yourself? And just to have empathy.
Yeah.
People are in different sized bodies for a million different reasons. Genetics, movement, what we eat, all sorts of different things. And to not just assume why somebody looks the way that they do.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, we all of us, we get heckled to a certain degree. And, there's certain parts of where we live where you kind of get out in the country and you get some people that don't take too kindly to cyclists and kind of have a very simple mindset. And we get slurs and things thrown at us and whatnot. And it's everybody. It's not just somebody that's dealing with, inclusionary issues. It's everybody. And I would just really wish that people would knock it off. It's just not necessary.
I think just viewing each other as humans.
Yeah, exactly. There's no room in the world for that. Cool. Ian, you got any more questions?
I don't think so.
Marley, do you have any questions for us?
I want to hear about your recent rides. Are we getting to that part of the show?
I think it's time. You guys ready to do the back pedal? All right, let's do this. Lance, you want to kick it off?
Yes. Okay. I did race my bike this last week. I did the Portland short track. There is one more short track race next Monday. Funny not, I raced the Cat 250 plus field. I had a front row start this week. There was still about 30 people in our race, which was a lot. And I completely botched the start.
Oh, no.
Just completely
Did you miss your
botched
clip in
it.
or something? Or?
I missed the clip in.
Oh, no.
And then I fumbled trying to find, and then I laid down and took a nap, and then I ate dinner, and then I started
That sounds
racing
like my
again.
kind of race. I have legit had a picnic on the side of the road in the middle of Unbound.
I just completely blew the start and ended up going to the first corner mid-pack, or I was in 10th or something like that.
That is not like you.
No, it was not like me. It was kind of funny. I was getting heckled then. They're like, Hepler, what'd you start in the front row for if you're just going to go to the back? So, which was fair. But yeah, it was a 35-minute race, and I corner well on my mountain bike, and I was able to pick people off, and I still ended up winning by almost a minute.
Nice.
So I worked my way back and won the race. So I was pretty pleased with that. So short track racing went good. Other than that, I rode with Jake quite a bit this last week.
Yeah.
Oh, did get news that they are changing categories for mountain bikes
For next year.
Uh-huh. It is it's up to the promoter to change those categories. But Mike Ripley is having a 50 plus Cat 1 category next year.
So it used to be 45 plus.
Used to be 45 plus. He's changing it to 50.
Will there be a 40 plus Cat 1? Are they
No.
breaking those out, or is it just going to be open below that?
No, Cat 1, there'll be Cat 1 19 to 49.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So that one category will be a little bit bigger, but he's changing the 50 to 50 plus. So there'll be 5 or 6 of us that will probably be moved to Cat 1 for next year.
You going to get are you going to self upgrade yourself, or are you going to get the boot?
No, I've had 2 good years as a Cat 2. We didn't have to upgrade beyond there, so I will start racing Cat 1. But once I start racing Cat 1, I have to do all mountain bike races Cat 1, including short track. And it's up to the promoter to decide the age floor.
Yeah.
So there could be the other promoters could set their age floor at 45, and I would still have to race Cat 1.
Do you like that, or do you think there should be consensus amongst all of them to say this is what the category is going to be?
No, I'd rather it be consensus, but Obra doesn't demand that for mountain biking.
Interesting.
So interesting. Anyway,
about time.
I know.
The world rejoices as they hear Lance is going to upgrade to Cat 1. Sandbagger.
That's it. Yes, I'm a classic professional sandbagger.
I was gonna say something when you said you won the Cat 2 by a minute. Like, time to upgrade there, bud.
Right.
Well, we've been telling you.
Everybody's been telling you that. People scream at me at the races, but I won't explain.
The rules don't force him to do it.
The rules don't force me to do it.
He took full advantage, but that's all right. Ian, you got a back pedal for us?
Yeah, I had a great weekend of riding. So people may know I have a coaching business. I've grown my client base a little bit over the months since I retired. And Saturday, I decided to try to get everybody together, all of my clients who by and large live locally, and everybody showed up. It was a great time.
Awesome.
I set it as a low impact race, conversational pace, no drop. And it was a lot of fun, and it was great to have people there. So good to see everybody. Hopefully I'll make a habit of doing that. Then Sunday we shifted gears. We raced Criterium. Mm-hmm. I always get a little bit nervous before the start of a Criterium race, but once the gun goes off, it was all good.
You're just holding wheels at that point.
Yeah, and it goes back to this big conversation about categories and age groups. So I was in a separately scored group, small group of 60 plus guys, but then we raced with the open 50s and the open 35s.
Yes.
Jake's looking at his watch. I better make this brief.
No. I'm just watch his buzzing. Don't just ignore me.
So yeah, it was fast, and so I understand it. The 50s and especially the 60 plus groups are too small to race. To have your own race, basically.
There's only 5 or 6 of you in
right.
a crit. That's kind of lame to just race 5 or 6 of you.
But the shame of it is, you always end up sort of mid-pack, hanging on, desperately hanging on, because you're racing with guys that are 20, 30 years younger than you.
Yeah, sure.
So you don't get that adrenaline rush of pushing to the front of the race at the very front. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I did get beat by my chief nemesis, Chris Brown, out sprinted me again on Sunday. So I ended up getting second place, but that was out of 4. So
yeah,
I can't really lay much claim to fame with that.
Still, you laid it out there, dude.
Yeah. And he beat me by going super fast around the very last corner. Like, we were cornering probably at 700 watts, trying to not lose any distance between yourself and the wheel in front of you. And I was like, I'm going to strike a pedal. My tire's going to break away, but I can't let off the gas. But I think I let off the gas enough where that gap opened up, and I just could not get up there for the sprint.
Yep.
So then Tuesday, he tries the same tactic. This is the funny thing. I was talking to Chris about it, and I just didn't feel confident around that last corner. So coming up to the very last corner on PIR on Tuesday night, The race had already split. The super fast guys had made a break. It was one surge too many, couldn't hold the gap, so we ended up 2/3 of the field was split off. But all the 60s, again, probably 3 or 4 of us, ended up in the same field. And Mr. Brown just lets it go coming up to the final corner, like at super high speed, and makes a solo break right there before the corner. But this time I hung on and I caught that guy and I passed him. Yay.
There you go.
So yeah, that was fun.
Cool.
Tuesday was fast and furious. Tuesday night PIR, I think there's one more left. It's been great. You can do 2 races, right? It's $5 for the second race. So jumped in with the 3/4s, and I was right in a good place at the finish, but by that time the legs just did not have it. So yeah,
All right, we're done.
yeah, that was good. So yeah, it's been great, and the weather's been great here. It's not been too hot. It's been beautiful for riding bikes.
It's still
Loved
warm,
it.
but it's not hot.
Right.
So
Right.
good.
So
Cool.
yeah.
All right, Marley,
Yeah.
backpedal for us.
I'm going to go back 2 weeks if that's okay.
Do it.
All right. Because this past week was mainly on the road.
Uh-huh.
I did get on the Olympic Adventure route for a little while. If you guys have heard of that, it's up on the Olympic Peninsula.
Okay.
It's about 30-mile single track. I bike packed it a couple years ago. And this year I just got out there on my hardtail and rode 10, 15 miles, and that was really fun. But what I want to talk about is the last best ride up in Whitefish, Montana. So I signed up for the 48-mile race. It's a gravel race. It's like 90% gravel, absolutely stunning, like insanely beautiful. It has 2 big climbs. So the first one is about a 5-mile climb, and then the second climb you climb up to the base of Whitefish Mountain, or I think it's called Big Mountain Resort. And that was about a 6 or 7-mile climb. I forget exactly. And you know, I'm typically in the back of these. I just do my own thing all day long, and I was hoping for about 6 hours. 48 miles, 6 hours. That's pretty good for me as long as I don't have a picnic on the side of the road.
Right.
I'm really good at wasting time. But this race, I had something interesting happen that I've never had happen before. I got to the second aid station and was just ravenous. So I drank part of a Coke, I had pickles, and I had Cheetos.
That's a combo.
And it's funny because, like, I normally have a really good nutrition plan. Like, I'm really good at eating throughout the day and keeping it consistent. And I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking. But I had all of this and then left to go start climbing and just had the worst stomach ache I've ever had.
No.
And I was like, this is
Cheetos
not...
and pickles. I wonder
Cheetos
why.
and Coke on top of that.
Yeah.
So I make it to the top of the climb. There's another aid station up there. This race was so well supported. It was incredible. And I'm sitting there and I was like, do you guys have any ginger ale or Tums or Pepto? And she was like, we have ginger ale. So I took one sip of the ginger ale and was like, it's all going to come back out.
Yes.
So sure enough, all of those Cheetos and pickles and Coke came back out, and then I felt like $1 million. And so from there, it was a 12-mile descent back into town, and I've never gone so fast in my life.
Why does that sound like
Puke
something
and
Lance
rally.
would do?
Yeah. I'm famous for puking at races. I'm puking all the time for some reason.
And I've never done that before, maybe because I'm not going that hard. I like to keep my heart rate, right at like zone 3, zone 4 during races. But man, that was quite the adventure. And then I got to the end and I was like, I haven't eaten in 20 miles. I am so hungry. And so I did it all again. Not Cheetos and pickles, but they had a really good post-race meal. And it was just, it was quite the day.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's I think that's something. What kind of gradients were the climbs?
Not bad. It was, I think the first climb averaged 4% and the second climb averaged 5%.
Okay, I'm in.
So
is this
very
a pretty
doable.
This is a pretty like popular event? I mean, I've heard about it, but I've never done
It's
it.
small. So I think
Okay.
it's sold out at 800 people.
Oh, well, that's really not that small. But
Yeah.
but when you're comparing it to Unbound or Steamboat, and Unbound was 5,000 riders this year, and
Yeah.
Steamboat is like 2,500 riders or something. So, okay.
Yeah. So relatively small, but definitely popular. It's tends to be a lot of locals. It's cool because they do a locals only podium too.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
yeah.
Good for you.
My backpedal real quick. I didn't race because I'm not racing this year. I did get out though, and I got another 11 hours in on the bike. So 3 weeks in a row of over 11 hours, 11, 12, and 11. pretty good. I'm starting to feel it though right now. I'm ready for a little recovery block and just kind of happy to be back on the bike and able to say like I get to take a recovery block. I earned it. So that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, like Lance said, I did some rides with him. We did our flogging ride, which was hot and humid and sucked the life out of everybody, but it was a blast. Yeah.
It was hot.
I hate to think about it.
Yeah. After the ride, it was pretty funny. Just we were all kind of hanging out, the three of us, because we all kind of started at the same spot, and Ian was just shelled. He was so
I have never
spent.
been
You were pretty ripped.
so knackered
Yeah, that was a
after
good
a
one.
ride. Yeah.
But just kind of happy that things are coming around back into shape, and my numbers are looking good, and things are trending in the right direction. So let's see how long we can keep this pulled together.
You bounced off the pavement last night, but didn't really hurt yourself?
Just some flesh wounds.
Okay.
Yeah. Just had a little miscommunication and
Just little cross wheels. We were on a gravel ride, but Jake managed to go down on pavement when we were there.
yeah. It was just I don't know, a friend of ours just kind of decided to turn left kind of in front of me and kind of took my wheel with him a little bit, but I don't know. It is what it is. It's nobody's fault. It just happens, and I'm fine. So
Good.
Yeah, just a little oozy this
We
morning.
were all
but-
freaking out. Like, freaking, no, Jake, you can't hurt something else.
Yeah, I'm made of glass, but
Well, then you rode angry after that. That was kind of fun, actually.
you know what's funny is my knee was hurting because that was what took the brunt
what
of it,
took the
because
brunt.
I didn't want to land on my hip and I didn't want to land on my shoulders. Both my shoulders are jacked up, and I've had one of them completely reconstructed multiple times because I got hit by the car, and I just all these things, and I'm like, don't hurt anything, land on healthy parts. And I did. And my knee was a little bit sore, but I found that if I pushed a little bit harder on the pedals, it didn't hurt at all. And in the swelling, I didn't notice it. So, and there was one point in time that I looked down, I'm like, oh, we're over 2 hours into this ride. And my normalized power was like 305 for the ride. And then we kind of slowed down at one point in time, and then it fell, I think, just below 300. I'm like, all right, I'm going to finish the last like 2 miles of this on the front, and I'm just keep my watts up high so I can finish at 300 watts. And I did. I kept my normalized power.
It was
over
quite
there.
lovely sitting on your wheel for that last 10
I
minutes.
am the best draft in the peloton these days. Big boy. So anyway, good times, fun ride. Love it always. All right, let's do one last thing and we'll call it a day. Who wants to start off? Matt usually starts us off, but let's let Lance.
So I am going to Bend to do Chris Horner Cycling Foundation Cascade Cycling Classic Criterium this weekend. I'm purely going down there because I thought Ian was going. And so
I probably will.
Okay. So maybe me and Ian are going to probably go down there and rip some laps around there. I have no illusions of doing anything. It is the Obra Masters Championship for Criterium. All I want to do is just beat one person. I just don't want to be last. So
I have to defend my jersey.
Oh, yes, you do. That's
do.
right. Is Chris Brown growing?
No.
Fantastic.
Then you have to go.
Then maybe
But I
if they
don't-
race us together, I can work for you, Ian.
Bend. There's so many hitters in Bend. It's hard.
Yeah, there is.
I've always been spanked when I've gone over there.
Ian, what's your one last thing?
Well, I just wanted to give a shout out to one of my guys, my coaching guys. Actually, he's a Dial Junior, and Milo Rengert. Mm-hmm. Milo has just been doing awesome. So I wanted to give a big shout out.
That
He's
kid is
crushing, man.
He is a night and day difference from where he was at like a year ago. I remember like I hadn't seen him in a little while, and he came back and he's got a different bike. I'm like, oh, that's nice. And he gets on and starts riding. I'm like, holy cow, who are you? Where'd you come from?
Yeah.
You're an absolute beast now.
He's got a lot of motivation. He's been working so hard. Every workout I've set, he's executed, finished. Give
Really?
me more.
Yeah.
Right. So he's done 2 of the Red R criteriums. He finished 6th in the 4-5 field, and he was right up there at the front. He's winning the juniors category for the series there.
16 or 17 years old. Somewhere
Yeah.
there.
He's had a couple of first places at PIR. Last night he raced with us in the 3-4 race. So first time in the faster race, and it is significantly faster than the 4-5 guys. And it was a full 12 laps, I think we did. Anyway, he did awesome. He was great.
Yeah, he
so
did really well at Mount Tabor too. He was
Yeah,
racing in the
Mount
3-4
Tabor as well,
group,
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, and found himself on the podium quite a few times. So good job, Milo.
So
And he did short track on Monday night.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes, he's done 3 days. I told him you got to take a day off because he's done 3 days of racing now. So,
Sweet.
yeah, good for him.
Marley, one last thing for you.
Oh gosh, the Tour de France Femmes starts next week, and I am so excited for that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You got any favorites?
Allison Jackson.
Allison Jackson, you're calling your shot?
Yeah. I don't know if she has any chance to win, but I just love her dances.
Yeah.
I love
Who
watching
doesn't love
her.
Allison
Yeah.
Jackson? She's fantastic.
So she's my favorite, and I'm rooting for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. My one last thing is I'm going to enjoy a few days off. I'm going to be going to the coast and I'm going to do some fishing. And it's like my last full family weekend until my daughter leaves the nest for the first time and she's off to Penn State. And yeah, we're going to go enjoy that.
Crocodile tears coming, brother.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know. I'm happy and I'm excited for her. I secretly kind of hope that she hates it there, but I know that's not going to happen because I don't want my kid to be on the other side of the country. Like, why couldn't she just go to U of O? But it is what it is. But yeah, we're going to go to the coast and just going to have fun with the family. So yeah,
Fantastic.
don't look for me on Strava. All right, Marley, you are awesome.
Thank you.
Anything that we can do to help support any initiative, our little dog and pony show, we'll do it for you. You just say the word. If you ever have any wants, needs, asks, we're here for you. We've got our Dialed community. We've got our podcast. We've got the Dialed Cycling Lab. We've got the cycling team. There's quite a few people that are going to rally behind you if you ever need any help or anything. So say the word and we'll do it.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Super appreciative of having you on here, and we'll have to cross paths again in the future. I'm going to definitely be keeping an eye on you. So
Come to Arkansas and ride bikes.
yeah.
Is there a driveway I can park at in Arkansas now?
There is.
I just recorded that. I have it on.
You have proof.
There you go.
Come park in my driveway in Bentonville.
You
I
all
got
got to
you.
figure out how to do this van life thing and you get paid to do it. So sponsors, if you're listening, we're all game. So
We're willing.
Cool. All right, we will be back next week with another one of these. And until then, bye for now.
People associate negative feelings with the word fat. People think that fat means lazy or ugly or undesirable, but really fat just is a descriptor of our bodies, and so I try to use that word just to describe myself and take the word back and what it means about my body, but leave those negative associations behind.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! You're doing it good, buddy. Great job.